Hey, I'm Naya, and today I decided to share with you my Prank Kids deck profile because yesterday we had an event. It was called a Hello Summer event, typically the size of a regional here in Slovenia, and I won it. And I'm pretty pumped up about it because I have never won an event before. I've topped a couple of them, but like an actual, legitimate win is something I have never been able to accomplish yet. And so today I decided to share the deck profile with you in case any of you are Prank Kids fans and just interested. I went 7-1-1, and at the end of the video I'm gonna do like a short tournament report, the matchups and everything. In case you wanna listen to it, you can skip, do whatever, but it's there at the end, so make sure to stick around. We are first going to be starting with the main deck. So I played the full Prank Kids lineup of the 3 of every single one of them. First I played 3 Prank Kids Lampsies, then the 3 Dropsies, 3 Fansies, and then the 3 Roxies. And the Roxies are at 3 because, you usually run it at 2. I mean, I did before I switched to the polymerization version, which works better for me right now. So I think I'm going to just be keeping the Roxies at 3. As for the hand traps, I decided to play, more hand traps than usual. Because I felt like the deck just never worked for me fully, I bricked, I drew a lot of awkward hands, I drew, 2 talents or even 3 talents and then a Desires, which did nothing for me because the draws were trash. So I just decided to cut, everything that wasn't engine or, a hand trap that could stop the opponent's engine, essentially. And also yesterday it was funny to me when a guy from my Discord server said that, you can never draw a bad hand if every single card in your deck is good. And it just made sense to me. I played 14 hand traps. It worked great. I had hand traps for sort of every single situation I could find myself in. So I played 3 Ash, which is the most generic one. Then 3 Veiler. Veiler I hated it at the last event I was at last month because I felt like I drew it a lot and it did nothing, but I still decided to play it yesterday because I felt like a lot of Tribe Brigades might enter the tournament because that's what happened last month. I did not play any, but Veiler was still great because one of my matchups was like a pile of rocket things in it and the Veiler, turned out quite okay. So as for Nibiru, to be honest, I played it in the main deck because my husband played the only playset of Ghost Bell we own. So that's the only reason I played it in the main deck. I used to run 2 copies in the side. I felt like it worked fine, so I just moved it to the main deck. And yesterday, it came up once in the aforementioned rocket pile matchup, but other than that, it was just there. I didn't really see it, to be honest. I saw it once against a Dogmatica player, in the matchup. It did nothing, obviously, but it's still a great card. I would probably just move it to the side deck when I get my hands on 3 Ghost Bells, but for the time being, the Nibiru in the main is completely fine. And then to round off the hand traps, I played 2 Skullmeister. I wanted to keep it at 40 cards, and when I put 2 in, I was at 40 cards, so I just kept it there. I felt like 3 might brick. And to be honest, yesterday, Skullmeister was most likely one of the best cards of the deck, which I did not expect it to be. I just felt like it's gonna work fine, but not that great. It worked great against Virtual World, against Salamangreat, against, what else? Oh, the Eldritch Traps in the graveyard. So it was amazing. I sided the 3rd one, and it worked great. I was really happy I played it. I think I'm gonna keep it in, for sure. So moving on to the spells, as you can see for the Prank Kids, side of things, I played 3 fusion spells. I never played less than 3. I always felt like the card is great. And usually, with Prank Kids, when you normal summon, people just go crazy, people wanna, pop your normal summon or banish it or do, anything they can to it to just prevent the combo from going off. So playing the 3 of this was incredible because you can always dodge things like a guy torrentialed me, I had this and 2 names, then he used, I think, Karma Cut on one of my monsters. I just chained it, and it works amazing, you know, every single time. I love it. I never break on it. I mean, I drew like 2 once, but I used it as a discard for pranks, so it was fine. And then also, the matchup with Virtual World is horrible in my opinion, because even if they brick, even if you hand shot them, you can do, you know, anything to them, and Shenshen is just gonna kill you most of the time. So by playing this, I was able to fuse from my hand a lot of the times, and I could just dodge the Shenshen, you know, altogether. So as for the place, I ran 3. I see sometimes people running less, or they just play a terraforming, which I didn't play. I felt like, you know, the names were enough, plus the place didn't break on it when I needed it. Usually what I do is I always play around Nibiru, because I'm just scared of it. And at our events, people just play Nibiru a lot. You know, they like to be ready for Rogue, I guess. And always, I would go, you know, 4 summons to the doodle, and then just mill the spell with the green prank kid, add it back, surge the water. That's what I always do. And you play around Nibiru, you play around everything. So I would mill it a lot with the green one actually, and it worked great. As for the pranks, I ran 2. I usually see people running 1. I ran 1 at the last event, it did not work for me. I also ran 3 desires back then, so I just kept banishing it, or banish it for the Roxy's cause, because I had to, and I felt horrible doing it. So I'm never probably gonna, you know, cut it to 1. Also, what I always want to accomplish during my turns is to get all the 3 spells in rotation if I can. So Surge Pandemonium of Doodle, and then send one of Fancies, and I just hope I draw the 3rd one. It's great for follow-up. It reminds me of Multiroll, you know, it's great. You always want to get it. Also, if you wanna like go into Axis, which I play, the pranks grants you the extra body you might need, because you don't always draw like an Instant Fusion or the Pandemonium or something. Pandemonium like also locks you out obviously, but sometimes you use it after you go into Access Code if you have, you know, a lot of resources. But the pranks is just 1 card with the discard, just grants you an extra body, so you OTK easily. As for the polymerization, last month I didn't play it. I wasn't that successful with the deck. I mean, I did okay, but the actual deck didn't work that well. My hands were awkward, like I said. So this month, it wasn't my idea. I just got inspired because I saw people playing it and actually winning and topping and being successful with it. So I thought, you know, there's probably something to that. So I just decided, I sat down. It's kind of weird, but I'm kind of proud of it. I sat down and I just took like a regular notepad, note and pen, and I wrote down every single combo with the polymerization, with every single color and the combination of the colors, and what to do if they hand trap you there and there and there. So I just made myself like a guide, you know, just a spreadsheet of everything that can happen. And because of that, yesterday I was able to play through so many things. I played through like, I don't know, 3 interruptions just easily because I knew what I had to do. And the polymerization worked amazing for me. Also dodging Shanshan, like I mentioned before. So it's great. I'm definitely going to be keeping it in. And the last 3 spells I just put together, they're one-offs: Monster Reborn, Instant Fusion, and Call by the Grave. Really not much to say about them other than the fact that I didn't want to run anything that was like, you know, non-engine or not hand traps. So this was like the only 3 cards I felt like I was comfortable putting in. You know, no talents, no, there can be no IDP, you know. Things that help me out is something that I want to play. And the Instant Fusion and the Call by and the Monster Reborn do everything, you know, I need them to do and more. So that's why I play them. The last 3 cards are Infinite Impermanence. The deck is 40 cards. And Impermanence was just a great generic hand trap I wanted to run for the Tri Brigade matchup, and also for the Shanshan, because like I said, I'm afraid of it. I'm scared of Winda and things like that, although people, you know, usually just go Schism, so the imp doesn't do that much. But mainly it was for Shanshan, for Tri Brigade, and anything I might encounter in which, you know, I might need it. Moving on to the extra deck, first I played 3 Meow Meow. You need to run it at 3, I think. You're probably never gonna use the 3rd one, or just in a really weird grindy matchup. But you know, you usually have enough space to just play 3, and I think you should, to be honest. And then the 3 doodle, I summoned the third one only once because he veilered 2 of my, you know, the first and the second one. So I had to go into the third to actually keep playing. I'm pretty sure I lost that game though. So the third one did not come up, but you have enough space. You have, I think, 1 flex spot in the deck. It used to be Zeus when I played Talents back then, you know. In theory, if you take someone else's XYZ, I never summoned it once. During, you know, every single month I tested the deck, I haven't summoned it once, so I just decided to put the third doodle in because I thought it might come up more than the Zeus did. The last 2 links are Bow Wow and the Roaring Roaster. Sometimes people cut Roaster and I'm not quite sure why, because I love it. You know, what it does is I use it as bait every single time against, I don't know, decks like Striker, or I use it in a BA matchup, so I just made him, you know, use every single thing he set. I like the Roaster. I did not summon it, you know, as many times as I hoped or thought I would, because I think it's an incredible card, but it was there just for utility. As for the Bow Wow, to be brief, he put in a lot of work. He always does, you know, returning resources. And also in the BA matchup, he protected everything when he set the needle ceiling with Backjack. So that was great because he didn't realize the protection effect, so he just cleared his own field. I think a Skullmeister something in his grave, and the Bow Wow protected mine. I ran every single fusion at 1. You usually do, I think. You only need them at 1 because you can recycle them with pranks if you think about your resources well enough. The Rocket Ride is great, especially with the polymerization. I didn't summon the Weather Washer that much, which I was kind of surprised, to be honest, because during testing I use it a lot, but yesterday I just didn't. I think it got like something negated or banished or something, so it didn't even. No, I'm sorry, I didn't have enough space on the board to actually use it because I used Nibiru, so it was just there. It didn't do a lot, but it helped me OTK once. But other than that, if you're not that familiar with the Weather Washer or the Prankit cards, it's an incredible card. What it does is, if your Prankit monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate things until the end of the damage step. And I didn't know that previously, but the actual if it attacks part means that even to attack declaration, your opponent can't do anything. So that kind of shocked me when I heard about that, because that's amazing also in the like Shadow matchup or things like that, when flip effects are a thing, and it's great. It puts in a lot of work. People never know that it does that they cannot activate anything, and people are usually very shook about it. As for the Battle Butler, it's Butler. You usually try to summon it. The Raigeki effect is amazing, especially against things like Tri-Brigade or things like that. That's why I think the Prankit deck is so great right now, and in the previous format, because so many decks actually want their monsters to stay on board, like Zodiac before and then Tri-Brigade now. And the Butler is insane. The fact that they printed Meow Meow, making it so he can pop twice, also in the same chain, is just insane to me, to be honest. As for the 3 links, it's just Phoenix, Unicorn, and Access Code. The first 2 are just utility, and the Unicorn makes it so your Access Code can OTK more easily, and the other Access Code was incredible. I would never cut it from the Prankit deck. Yesterday I didn't use it that much. I don't think I summoned it more than twice, but it was great. It's there. I think you need to run it because it's really, really good. It helps you just seal the game quickly so you can move on to the next one. And the last card was obviously the Toads. As for the Toad and the whole polymerization thing, like I mentioned before, I only went through the full combo once, I think, and I got Veiler Nibiru. But I did win that game, I should mention. The Totally Awesome is incredible. Usually when I do the Bow Wow play in their turn, the Butler play in their turn, I summon 2 waters with my Prankit, because most of the time I try to clear their boards so they cannot attack over the waters, and for the first play on my turn I just go into the Toad to be safe, and it always helped me. So moving on to the side deck, I played 3 Troll. I didn't expect that many Dredge runs, but you always need to use it, I think, especially in this meta. The last two of my monsters were one Skullmeister and one Pankratops, and I'm laughing because, like I said before, I couldn't main deck Bell, and I used to run two Nibiru's in the side, so I had two more slots, and I just put in the third Skullmeister because I had the feeling in my work, against Salamangreat, against, like I said, Virtual World, against Eldritch, against Drytron, so I just thought, why not put in the third one, and I would, before the event, I calculated a bit, looked at my deck, saw what I should side out, what I should side in, and I always had the extra slot for Skullmeister in the main after siding, so I just decided to side it, and also the Pankratops, in theory, it's great. I don't think I didn't. As for the Pankratops, I didn't see it once. I think I sided in a couple times. I didn't see it. It's there. It's Pankratops. It just does what it does best, but I didn't see it. For the back row removal, I put in Harpies and the 3 Twin Twisters. To round off the spouse, 3 copies of Dark Ruler. It was just for Winda, for Shanshan, for Dragoon. First, I thought I wanted to play 3 Forbidden Chalice, just because sometimes you draw Dark Ruler and the Fansies, and if you can't, not the Fansies, sorry, the Lampsies. I usually call them by color, I just go, red, green, blue, so it's hard for me to remember the names. But the Lampsies, and if you draw the Ruler and the Lampsies, you can't burn them, so you can't special summon to monsters, so this combination just doesn't work. That's why I wanted to run Chalice, but then I thought, sometimes people make boards with more than one problem monster. Also, Dragoon can be targeted, so that's why I decided to just run the Ruler. I think it's great. I think you should run it in the side deck, especially in a deck like this, so I'm just gonna keep it in. And as for the last 3 cards, I played 3 Judgment just because I was afraid of Twin Twister and Cosmic, and that's kind of the only reason why. And also, I run that many hand traps that I wanted to be able, after siding, to just swap out, the 3 Nibiru or Veiler or something I might not have them that much use for something much more useful. Okay, so for my tournament report, I just decided to put my amazing custom tokens that me and my husband like to make, so you can look at them while I tell you about my matchups. I'm just gonna be brief. Just a short tournament report. We had 52 players, 6 rounds of Swiss, and then top 8. I went 7-1-1. And in the first round, I got a Striker player. And Striker is just a bad matchup for me. I don't like it. Butler doesn't do enough, so I was kind of scared, and we ended up tying. And I said, a tie is everything I need. It's great. A win is better, but the tie is also almost as equally good. Game 1 was decisively his. I couldn't do anything. Game 2, we went into time, but it wasn't like a Lampsies burn or something, cheesy like that. I just had more life points, more advantage. We were grinding it out for the longest time, even in Game 1. So we just went to time and tied. Nothing more to say about that. He ended up topping as well, which was great. Round 2, I played a Salamangreat player. I went second twice. Hand trapped him, and then the first game I actually bricked, and then well-timed Call by the Grave sort of kept me in the game even longer, so I could draw Prankid's name, and then it just went downhill for him because his hand wasn't that good, so he just used everything on his initial combo, so he couldn't play sort of after I actually drew a Prankid's name. Game 2 was sort of the same. He couldn't do that much with the hand he drew. Then round 3, I played a Harpy Tri-Brigade player, and game 1, he bricked so hard he just passed, and after that I didn't want to play into Nibiru, so we just passed a couple turns. I mean, he passed and I just attacked, trying not to play into Nibiru. But I only saw the Harpy cards, and after I impermed his normal summon, he scooped. So I was like, okay, that's a Harpy player. And then he whips out game 2, the Tri-Brigade side of things, and he does the barrier statue combo, but he didn't have that many cards left in his hand after that. And I top deck imperm, which was kind of like, bad for him, and I felt kind of bad a little, but I could still beat over the statue, but I didn't have, a Prankid with enough attack in my hand. I only had the 0 attack one, so I was kind of annoyed by that, and then when I top decked the imperm, it just sealed up the game faster for me. Round 4, I played a Virtual World player. I was mad afraid because I hate Shanshan and the Chucha, and everything the virtual world deck does is just bad for my deck. So I was so sad when I realized I have to play against this deck, but then I was like, okay, I'm just gonna do it, it's gonna be fine. And game 1, he bricked, just like my previous opponent. He only had hand traps, and he could hand trap me, but he just scooped immediately because he saw his top deck was another hand trap, and he realized after, he hand traps me once, I can still play on my following turn. So he just scooped. And then game 2, he managed to establish Shanshan and Chucha. He also had I think a Ghost Bow or something, but he wasn't that familiar with my deck, so he didn't really know which things to pop and which things to interact with. And I had 2 names and a Pandemonium in my hand, a Polymerization in my hand, so I could just easily play around Shanshan and, his horrible effect for my deck. So that's why I could win that game and, take it 2-0 swiftly. So at that point I was 3-0-1. I was super pumped, and then round 5 I played Dogmatica Eldritch Shadow player, which is my friend from the Discord server, and I was kind of sad because I bricked horribly 2 games. Game 1 I just drew 4 names and a Nibiru, and he ashed me, so I had to pass, and obviously he's not gonna summon 5 times, probably ever. And then game 2, well, it was bad. I just sat 2 in the Spawn Trap Zone. I don't even know what it was. I think an Imperm and a Twister probably, because I swapped out the Nibirus for Twisters, and that's, I think, the only change I made after siding. But somehow I just drew bad, just some random hand traps that, did something, but not enough, because he opened both of his engines, everything he needed. So yeah, I lost. And then I ended up being kind of nervous, because I had to win the last round to be able to top, because a lot of players had draws. And then the round 6, I played a BA player. To be honest, I was kind of relieved, because other decks that were on the bubble were like Striker and Dragma decks. So I was nervous, very nervous. And then I got the BA player. I 2-0'd him. He didn't have that many plays. He set 3 or 4 traps, but I managed to play around them, because I always think that, just generally in Yu-Gi-Oh, I think a combo deck does more than a control deck. And if you can do a lot, you can play through a lot. He had a Torrential or something, so after I saw he had Torrential, I would always put my field spell as Chainlink 1, so he can Torrential. I had the Pandemonium to dodge things like Karma Cut, so he couldn't play because of my Skullmeisters, and it was bad for him. So that was the last round, and then we went into top 8. I got a Virtual World player again, and it was 1-1, and then game 3, he bricked horribly. He had just hand traps, I think a Chucha that couldn't do anything, obviously, and an Order. So what happened was, he had the Order, and at first I was trying to get rid of it, thinking I would put 2 monsters on board, make a Phoenix, but then I was just he doesn't draw into anything, literally, so I'm just gonna keep attacking. And then what happened was, he set a monster, and we started calculating the damage. We realized that if I attack directly with something with 15 attack, I had Roxy's, the Order is just gonna burn him for game, but he scooped before that could happen, to sort of keep his dignity, I guess. But it was funny, the Order would burn him essentially. And then top 4, I played a Salamangreat player. I took that 2-0. It was just easy, because first I made my entire combo, played around Nibiru, which he had in his hand, and then I would pop his Flame Buffalo on summon, so I could Skullmeister it in the grave. So that was kind of nice. And then game 2, he could make a Dweller, which would kill me probably, but he decided to go for the Goddess, and I ashed him, so he just didn't have enough resources to combat my turn, basically. And then we finally got to the finals. So what happened in the finals was, game 1, we both drew so many hand traps that we just kept passing. I passed immediately, Veilered his Alistair, he attacked for 1k, passed. I Veilered or Imperm the second Alistair, he attacked for 2k and passed. So what happened was, I got to my engine first, I drew a Roxy's, and he couldn't, I think, sort of continue from there. Game 2 he won. For the longest time I thought I could win, but then he established the Eldritch engine and a Savage, and I just didn't have enough to continue. And then Game 3, I made my board, but he had a Pancratops, he had a Phantasme, and he had a Called By for my Butler. So he had a lot, but those were like 3 cards in his hand, and he just didn't have enough to sort of play on and just move forward from there. So yeah, I could take the finals after that, which was great. And that rounds off my my tournament matchup. I think it was an amazing event. I played so many different decks. I played so many decks that I was afraid of. I managed to win, so I was kind of proud of that. And yeah, that's it for my deck profile, for my tournament report. If you liked it, make sure to sub, make sure to like. I'm pumped up to produce even more content, so sub for real and stick around and see what's happening. I also have a Twitch channel on which I'm planning to stream just different decks, competitive content, playing on Dueling Book and everything, remote duels also, so make sure to go hang out over there. The links are everywhere on my channel basically. And yeah, that's it. I'll just see you in the next one. Thanks for sticking around. Bye.